everybody, and welcome to Let's Talk Assassin's Creed, your number one podcast for all things Assassin's Creed.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 110 of Let's Talk Assassin's Creed. In this episode, we're going to talk about one of the cornerstones of the games, of the franchise, which is parkour, free movement through cities and forests and so on. This week, we are joined by a new guest to the show, who's going to join us in this conversation. So welcome to the show, Adha.
Well, thanks a lot, and thank you a lot for having me.
No problem. It's great to have new guests on the show. And before we hit record, we were just doing our usual audio checks and our usual warm-up chat. And we've already, I think, discussed maybe 2 or 3 more episodes worth of content to do with the early games and the mobile games. I learned this evening before we hit record that there was a Facebook game that was part of this franchise, which is just fascinating. So I already think we've got some good content for the future. But let's get back to topic, because we've already gone off topic and we've only been recording for 1 minute. Declan, you want to talk about parkour, my friend? Where do we start?
I think I'm going to start by making a confession that any opinions I have are my own, because even though I have been playing for 14 years straight, I am not a fan of parkour. And to kick off, I think we should get the most controversial comment I have to make out the way. So I'm going to make it, we can discuss it, and then we can flow on to some nicey stuff and people can forget I made controversy. So the controversial statement I'm going to make, and I will take your opinions on it, is I don't think Unity's parkour should have been made. It's I don't have any problems.
Let me stop you there, because I think we've got a technical problem on the line. We've got the wrong host who's joined here. What's going on? You don't think Unity's parkour should have been? Please, you've got to explain. You must explain.
So it's not that the parkour is bad. I think the parkour is one of the best in the series, and I will always say that it's one of the best. But the problem with Assassin's Creed since day one is the series evolves. Combat evolves, world evolves, gameplay evolves, and everything. Unity, however, made parkour so good, you can't evolve from it. It peaked, meaning that any world built after Unity has to be able to incorporate free run up and down. It has to match Unity's impeccable style. Problem with that is Unity relied too heavily on the puppeteer system, as that was popular then. Now we have an RPG setting, you can never replicate Unity's parkour, because you can't have a puppeteer system. Therefore, Unity's parkour shouldn't have been made. It peaked too early for the series, in my opinion.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm going to go run and hide under a cover now because I get in trouble. Adha, take over while I hide.
Well, I have my own opinions about the parkour in Unity, actually, because I have to say that I played that game on release. And as you probably know, as you probably know, there were a lot of issues with the game at release. And, also probably it was my own condition at the time, probably, as a person. But I did not really enjoy the game. Like, I was in it because it's an Assassin's Creed game. You get to do a lot of assassinations. You have a beautiful inventory with very new weapons. That's great. The story, and I will go back to that in a moment. And then you get maximum 7 minutes of modern day, which is something that I was really looking forward to after what happened with Black Flag, because you're just wandering around in Abstergo Entertainment. So maybe it was all of that together that pushed me to not really enjoy the game that much. And when I saw that there was a go up and go down types of high profile to do parkour, I was completely out of my depth. I didn't know how to. I have not been able yet to use that game properly, in my opinion. And the thing is, I've played it more recently, and I did like it. I enjoyed it more, probably also because it's more fixed. But I enjoyed more the story. I enjoyed also a little bit more the parkour. but I still suck. I am really used to in before I played the Unity, I played a lot of especially the Ezio trilogy, especially the Ezio trilogy. Yeah. So and you know that those controls are wonky to say the least. So yeah, I was used to that, and the controls were all the same. So yeah, I was playing in mouse and keyboard at the time, so it was very easy. I think it's right click, space bar, and then just running and to climb things and stuff, and then to go down just the puppet system, like Declan said. So yeah, you change that and you keep the puppet system, but you take away those controls and you just put something separate for up and down, and I'm completely out of my yeah. It was terrible. That's why I was so happy when Syndicate had it had the same system, but you had the grapple hook, so it was way easier for me to go up.
I
The
love the
grapple
grapple
hook is
hook.
cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
I loved
Yes.
it, and I don't understand why people hate it. I've seen a lot of opinions about that, and yeah, it's weird.
it's literally one of the best. Sorry, James. I was just gonna
No, go
say.
for it.
I was just gonna say it's one of the best moment things in the game for movement. It's so fun. It fits the time period, and not to be rude, I adore the old parkour systems because they were simple. But imagine Black Flag's parkour system trying to climb up Big Ben. That's just nightmare fuel waiting to happen. It's harder than Dark Souls. So having a grapple launcher to make it a bit faster is a godsend in my eyes.
I get it's probably also a matter. I mean, I assume I've never actually looked into this, but I assume that the grapple hook was created because buildings were getting taller. And where's the fun? Like you say, you want to go and climb Big Ben for real, just using the hook blade or the climb leap. You're going to be there for quite a few minutes because Big Ben is a big tower, and it's probably not very interesting to climb it manually. So I wonder if it was just done for. I suppose you've got the wide streets as well, and the grapple hook helps you cross those wide open streets of London, which we don't really have in the smaller cities, the older cities of the earlier games. But I want to ask a question to because I think Declan, you didn't play Unity on release. You played it a few years after. But I've got a question for you then, Ada. So Unity was known or infamous for its many bugs. Were there bugs in the movement system as well then? Because I've only ever seen the classic Unity face screenshots and videos, but were there bugs in the movement system as well on release?
I don't really recall, but I think the fact that there were bugs in other parts of the game just made the whole experience less enjoyable. So
Gotcha.
there's already less flow in the yeah
Yeah,
in
yeah.
everything, I think. But yeah, this is I'm talking from recall, and this was a long time ago. So yeah, take
Yeah,
it with
that's
a
fair
grain of
enough.
salt.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I came to the game this summer, just started a few months ago, 4 months ago, finished it 2 months ago, and playing on PC in 2021. Um, I never noticed a movement issue, but yes, maybe that was fixed in the intervening 7 years. Or like you say, I had a similar experience. Well, not exactly a similar experience, but I had some early bugs with Valhalla, which kind of soured my overall experience of the game. And I can totally understand if you were getting melee combat bugs or story bugs or AI bugs. Yes, you just lose interest, don't you, in trying to complete the story and trying to play the game. But certainly when I played it this year, the the movement system is not. You're right. There's a lot to learn with the separate controls for parkour up and parkour down. But once you train, what I found worked for me, and I play on keyboard and mouse as well, is I never found reaching over for the E key for parkour down and interact very natural. So I mapped it to my thumb button on my mouse, or one of the thumb buttons on my mouse. And I just found that so much more natural to have a thumb on the space bar for parkour up, and then my other thumb on the side button of the mouse for parkour down. And then with your little finger on the shift key, I just found that a really natural way of navigating the world. So that for me made a big difference in sort of getting on top of the controls. But I'm going to say perhaps the opposite opinion of you. So I never really enjoyed or very much used the parkour in the early games. But but I used it extensively in Unity. But I think the difference is I put the time into it because I was kind of absorbed in the world and the story. And we've spoken about this a lot in previous episodes. I don't want to rehash old points I've made, but because I was enjoying myself so much, I invested the time into understanding the movements and watching videos and learning side hops and side wall ejects and all the rest of it, and kind of really getting on top of the movement system. I think if you just play the story straight through and you're done in maybe 15, 20 hours, yeah, you probably wouldn't master or understand the movement system. But if you put the time into if you treat the movement system as like a mini game on its own, and you kind of study it, what you can do is amazing. I'm nowhere near Leo K's level or Memento Gallery's level, not at all. But yeah, if you put the time in, you can really do some fantastic flowing runs. And what I wonder is, and it's something I do want to do in the future, is I do want to go back to AC2 because I only played AC2 once, very, very fast playthrough. I'd love to go back to that game and replay it and invest the same amount of time into the movement system, because I watch parkour runs people do in AC2, and it's fantastic with the sort of the side ejects and the small sort of jumps and then twisting and wall ejects to quickly climb different surfaces. It is fantastic. But for me, I never really connected with the parkour in the early games. And I'll tell you what did it for me. Do you remember, Declan, when we were doing our Unity episode and you said you didn't really like moving on the roofs, you preferred to move through the crowds? We're talking about Unity here. It's kind of similar for me with the early games, because there's archers, especially AC1, there are archers everywhere. AC2, there are archers or crossbowmen, I can't remember actually. They're everywhere. So I never went on the roofs because you just get shot at. So I would always be on the ground. Now, maybe I played the game wrong, or maybe I missed a really important sort of side story where you can clear areas of the map and it removes the archers. But I never really found, and again, maybe this is just my lack of control and lack of study, but I never really found parkour for me a particularly fast way of escaping an area or, escaping the bad guys, because I wasn't very good at it. But I suppose that's the cycle you've got to get into. Invest the time into it, learn the routes, learn the controls, and you'll get better, and then you'll use it more, perhaps.
Maybe. I think parkour is a bit complicated, but on the point of archers on a rooftop, and I'd love to get Ada's opinion on this as well, it kind of makes me feel like in the older games, which I remember a lot more, that parkour was a necessity for exploration and escape, but by the time it got to Unity where it peaked, it then became its own feature. Like, this is what Assassin's Creed is about now, it's about parkour, where the old games, you were probably more in the shadows, you use tools, you crowd blend. Parkour was a bit more exploration, but what do you feel, Ada?
I agree, actually, because if I remember correctly, at least up to Assassin's Creed Revelations, you had hiding spots in rooftops. So when you ran away and you wanted to break contact with your enemies, and the moment you break contact, you can hide there. There were also, of course, haystacks. That's in every game, of course, but that's something that you can really see, especially the first and the second. I don't remember if in Brotherhood and Revelations there were a lot, but definitely in the first two. That's something I
Let me ask a dumb question of both of you. What are those little huts on the roof supposed to be? I mean, yes, they're hiding spots, but are they supposed to be a type of structure? I've never wondered this before, and now I'm asking dumb questions.
I actually don't know. That probably is a question best suited for a historian.
Yes.
I have no idea. I really,
Declan, do you know what those little
not even I
structures are
guess.
supposed to be?
Structures.
Okay, yeah, parkour, hiding structures. Got it.
There you go. Ada summed it up properly. We need a historian.
We do.
I could Google it, but
that takes all the fun out of us being wrong on the internet. So
yes.
we'll just leave it. That
Also,
none of
I
us
don't want to
know what
say
they are.
something stupid.
I say stupid stuff all the time, like how I introduced the episode with my comment of Unity's parkour. But anyways, we're back to topic. So as you said, Ada, with the hiding spots on the roofs, I think 3 had the jump through windows mechanics when you're trying to run from line of sight. So on your point of rooftops having more hiding spots. Do you feel then with parkour, as it got to, I'm gonna say Black Flags when I first noticed it, that it gone away from being, oh, let's have a convenience of being an assassin, you're gonna hide from the shadows, you've got to plan your routes. You can't just run, backflip, do everything, to suddenly, let's make parkour about do whatever you want. Do not be the assassin that hides in the shadows, because realistically, if Arnold's jumping from one roof to another, or Edward in Black Flags, you're not being a conspicuous assassin. You know what I mean? They're going to spot you.
Definitely. If I'm honest, I had that feeling since Assassin's Creed 3. And the reason is, I think it's also the setting. Yeah, you're in the colonies at the time. Well, almost not colonies, but still colonies. And you're in very small towns, and the houses and the buildings are really far apart. So you don't really have a lot of chances to work there in the shadows in the rooftops, because you have to jump a lot on trees. You have to jump on yeah on other things that are there in the streets, like I don't know, ropes or something. And yeah, I think for me that was the moment that it stopped being fun. Well, not fun, but useful. Useful is the word, yeah. And from then onwards, until Unity and Syndicate, it didn't get better. And then with the Origins onwards, we have this vast maps full of countryside, which is beautiful. And I don't mean any disrespect to whomever made the games, but holy shit, dude, there's hardly any buildings. I mean, I love Alexandria, that I like climbing on the rooftops, but come on, there are areas with almost nothing on it. How can you do anything on it? I mean, it's nice for exploration, and that's probably the RPG element, of course, of the games, or at least the first hints in Origins, and then more and more with Odyssey and Valhalla. But yeah, the parkour gets completely lost.
It's definitely. I mean, this actually, I suppose, comes to the central question: can you separate out parkour movement, free movement like this, from the worlds that you're exploring? You're absolutely right. Egypt is beautiful. Greece is beautiful. England and Vinland and Norway are beautiful. But yeah, you're not parkouring across 50 kilometers of ropes from Yorkshire to the south of England, or from the north of Greece to Crete. So yeah, it's an interesting point. Something I wrote down in my notes here, which is important to note. I mean, you called out Alexandria there, and Alexandria sticks in my mind because the team, or the people, the level designers that built Alexandria. Yes, it's a city. Yes, it's got wide open streets, but there's clearly a big influence of movement through that world, not just on ground level, at rooftop level. The
Yeah.
same with Cyrene in the northwest of the map. I
Oh
found a
yeah,
nice little
true.
route.
Hmm.
Yeah, I found a nice little route there a month or two ago when I was just messing around for a bit in Discovery Tour, because I wanted to do some parkour with Aya. And again, there are enough trees and ropes and little locations where you can string together nice routes in Alexandria and Cyrene. I haven't been down south to Fiume or the other cities to see what they're like. But clearly some attention was put in there. Unfortunately, although it's on record that I love Odyssey, the same cannot be said for Athens or Sparta. They're very flat cities. And I get that maybe that's a historical period, more open cities or lower buildings, but put some parkourable trees in there, put some ropes in there. Let us find our routes. Interestingly, there's some nice routes you can do in Sami, which is the town on Kefalonia where you start. You can even get some proper rope. I don't actually know what you call them, but where you do a sort of a parkour down, and Cassandra will grab the ropes with her hands, swing, and then swing herself up onto the next rope. So you can put some nice routes together in Odyssey around some of the forts, some of the smaller towns, but the big towns, they lack those little extra helpers that we need to make those nice routes. I must admit, when it comes to Valhalla, I didn't do any parkour at all. I didn't even bother trying to find routes in London or Jorvik or anywhere else. Did you try and do any kind of parkourable exploration in Valhalla, Declan?
Um, I did because the problem I'm finding, and it's not like I'm trying to call out the community. I'm trying to call out how Assassin's Creed's been designed. I feel like Assassin's Creed has too heavily decided to make parkour only available in urban environments. You know, this is urban, you do stuff. So I wanted to go out my way to see if they could fix what Free started and make environmental parkour.
Ah, trees. Yes.
And I actually noticed in Norway, one of the very first islands is a cliff with a bandit camp. Yes, you can walk up a path to it if you want. However, and this is a really interesting point, there is 14 dead trees on this cliff, they're counted on purpose, that you can run across and parkour on the side of the cliff to get to these points. And it was actually cool to see that this parkour was built into the world. You know, this is what we live in England. I live in the Lake Districts. I'm very close to forests and woods, and it is common for trees to fall, to break, and they do provide natural resources for parkour. So in Valhalla, yes, I've done a lot of parkour because it was fun, but it also begs the question that I would love for you guys to put your thoughts on. Historically, do we always need parkour? Like, seriously, would Vikings hop from building to building? You know, would Bayek or Siwa, a Magi who is a protector of the people, spend more time on rooftops like a vigilante Batman, or in the streets with the people, in the marketplace, learning them how they feel? And then the question that would ask is parkour now becoming more gameplay than history instead of blending the two together, if that makes sense?
If I may, um, I actually have some thoughts on that because I have mixed feelings with the Black Flag, for example, because it is true that in the beginning it strikes as weird that someone like Edward Kenway can do parkour out of nothing, like no training, no nothing, and yeah, then in the end people are like, oh yeah, and then he gets with the assassins, but I don't really see it until almost the end, like really the end of um, of the game. But at least he becomes one, so there's that's the point. So parkour is associated with assassins or the hidden ones in the case of Bayek. The only ones that do parkour and are not related in any way to assassins or hidden ones are Cassandra and Eivor. And Cassandra, at least, well, she lives in Greece, and well, parkour is actually kind of a how would you say this, an overstatement for what she does. But at least she climbs rooftops. She climbs a lot of mountains. Greece is full of mountains, so it's
True.
normal that
True.
she has that ability. She doesn't carry very heavy armor because yeah, it's mostly leather, maybe some breastplate and everything, but generally it's quite easy to handle. What what baffles me a little bit more is Eivor, in her background, being a Viking, well, being from Norway, being a Viking, and I get it. You have uh, this natural environment where where you could practice, and I completely agree on that with Declan. I'm missing a little bit more though. Like when the games were made, I'm missing a lot parkour challenges, and by this I mean parkour slash climbing challenges, like the tombs. We've had a lot of tombs, a lot of caves, a lot of everything, and none of them include a little bit of parkour, which really bothers me.
Have you tried the new tombs in Valhalla that were released last month?
Yeah, I did one, but unfortunately, now my PC is out of order, is getting fixed. So
Oh no.
I know what you mean, and I was looking forward to playing them because I know that they have that. But those are the only ones that have it. They have had plenty of games behind to do something about it, And they're
Yeah,
just doing it now
yeah.
with this extra content. So it kind of bothers me. And I'm hoping that in the next content, like the second year of Valhalla, I think next year, maybe they will include a little bit more of that. Maybe.
I did enjoy the Tombs of the Fallen in Valhalla. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of parkour, but there was some, and there was puzzle solving, which I never thought I was a puzzle person, but I quite enjoyed it. I did enjoy the tombs in AC2. The what are they called in Brotherhood? Where the Romulus cult are they just called Roman tombs or something? I can't remember. Anyway, there's the tombs in Rome. They're fantastic set piece parkour puzzles, and you're right. We've missed those for a long time. Odyssey had various tombs around the Greek world, but they were mostly just exploration puzzles. There was no real parkour needed. Was there anything? Well, we had, well, I suppose we had the pyramids, didn't we? And the various tombs like that in Origins, but there was no parkour required, was there?
Not that I recall,
To
no.
explore those, they were more like mazes, the pyramids, although not with too many different routes. So yeah, you're right. It's been a while since we've had proper. Because even I'm trying. I mean, I'm currently sort of halfway through replaying Syndicate at the moment, and even Unity and Syndicate didn't have specific
Well,
parkour puzzles.
Unity, perhaps in the DLC, now out of the top of my
Mm,
mind, the DLC,
yes.
and also the part where that building burns down and you have to climb and escape out of it by parkouring. But
Oh yes.
I
Yes.
wouldn't call that a challenge, because it's the same as with Assassin's Creed Rogue and Lisbon.
Ha.
You only have one way, you
Yep.
know.
Yep. I did want
So
to mention Lisbon because although you're right, it's a straight, not a straight path, but it's a set path. Um, there isn't a huge amount of variation. I don't think you can take, but it is a fantastic set piece, isn't it? As Lisbon
it's
collapses
lovely.
around
It's
you,
amazing.
it's a. I know Rogue is a smaller game, and I'm not sure if it was developed by one of the main studios or one of the smaller studios at Ubisoft, but when I got to that scene, I thought, "Geez, this is incredible! This is like a Hollywood epic that I'm right in the middle of running through." It was fantastic, but yeah, you're right. It's not a mind you. Even thinking back to the AC2 tombs, were there multiple paths you could take, or were you still?
It was one way, but you had time to think about it,
Ah,
unless you
yeah,
were under one of those challenges in Brotherhood, for example. But you could fall and you could get up and you could yeah. There was only one way. That's true, but it wasn't quick thinking. It was just yeah. You have this, solve it. You know.
good point. Good point. I suppose with Lisbon, really, all you're doing is pressing the W key and holding high profile and
Yeah,
running. Yeah,
basically,
it's not.
yeah.
Well, it's a feast for the eyes, if nothing else. I did want to go back to Black Flag. Whilst you were speaking about Black Flag and Edward, and where did Edward suddenly get his parkour skills from? An idea popped into my head whilst you were speaking, and I just want to mention it because I think it's genius. And so Edward leaves England, leaves Bristol. I don't actually remember what year he leaves, but he is a pirate or a privateer for several years before the events of Black Flag start. So before he washes up on the beach with, oh my word, what's the name of the assassin that he kills?
Duncan Walpole.
Thank you. Oh my word. Yes. No one will forgive me for getting that. So there's some years where he's at sea as a sailor.
True. Yeah.
He's going to be spending a lot of time, I would guess, climbing the masts, the ropes. And that's one of the things I love about Black Flag is the freedom you've got to explore the rigging and jump from one ship to another when you're doing, boarding action. So I think you could he would have been immensely fit as well. If he was manning guns, he would have been immensely strong to be maneuvering those guns. So I think you could make a story where Edward's strength and balance could be explained, so that works for me. I have to say, Black Flag, I know it's not always remembered or commented on for its parkour, I guess because you spend a lot more time at sea, but I really enjoyed the parkour in Black Flag. Parkouring around Nassau or Havana was fantastic. I know it's very similar to the earlier games, which I've said I never really used parkour very much, but I used it more in Black Flag and I really enjoyed it. I found it quite flowing. I'm not sure if it's identical animations to the earlier games or what. Maybe it is and I just didn't give the earlier games time, but I always enjoyed the parkour in Black Flag. There's one game I do want to call out, and it was the first game and this is because you could say I played the two games in the wrong order. So with Odyssey, seasons past, you got Assassin's Creed 3 remastered, and you got Assassin's Creed Liberation remastered. I think they branded it as Assassin's Creed Liberation HD, the remaster, but whatever. Now, because of whatever random problem with my PC, I couldn't launch AC3 when I'd finished Revelations, and I just wanted to carry on playing through the series, but it would let me launch Liberation. So I played Liberation before AC3. And there's two things I want to call out. Parkouring through the trees in the bayou is just fantastic. There's that settlement where you meet, I want to say her name is Elise, but not that Elise, the other Elise, the smuggler. And parkouring around that settlement in the bayou and through the trees is fantastic. It's so free and so flowing. And likewise, New Orleans. And that's where, for me, you've got the movement, but also the city design. You've got the narrow streets. You've got the balconies covered in flowers, which are fantastic to charge through. You've got the street furniture, like the lights and there's different like signs advertising, fishmongers and things. And parkouring through New Orleans is just amazing. And that was the first game where I thought, oh, this system is incredible. This is so fast and flowing. And I'd always found the earlier games that the parkour to be, it had a series of steps, like it had a beat, like Ezio's feet would go step, 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 and he would do this little breath, this little breathing sound, maybe like the impact of his of each step on his legs. But I always found it to be slightly stilted. But when I played Liberation for the first time, I just thought this is really open and freeing, and I'm having a great time. And I really used the parkour a lot more just for the fun of it, because it was so flowing. And I think it's the same in AC3. It's the same system. And I felt the same, although I probably used parkour less in AC3 in Boston and so on. Certainly Liberation was the first one where I thought, okay, I get it now. This is fantastic. What do you think about those mid franchise games, Declan?
I like Liberation. I think Liberation really should not have been a PSP game. It should have been the next game after 3 and then Black Flag, because it could have been done better on a bigger budget. It was perfect for it was, but I wouldn't mind have seen it having a bigger budget. But I think that's why the parkour stands out a bit better in Liberation than 3, because Liberation is built for the PSP, which is less horsepower, it's a bit weaker system, less memory. So you can really go to town and making smaller, tighter areas for whatever reason. But then you get 3, which is on the 360, and TVs get bigger. People putting HDMI's in the TVs now. You really need to have a big open space. You need to have big, vast feeling frontiers. Cities that feel one-to-one scale. And parkour has to take a back seat. They can't build these one-to-one scale towns, make them feel lived in, but give you every opportunity for parkour. If you look at the real world now, parkour's not something you can do easily. It's not as if you can whip down streets, jump off your lamppost and swing around. So, I don't know. I kind of just feel that maybe the smaller the horsepower, the more they can focus on parkour, whereas the bigger the games, the more parkour will have to take a back seat, if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely does. Maybe that's, well. Let me ask you both. Let me ask Adha a question, then you, Declan. So, ideal world, next game. Would you prefer a smaller city-based game, or a game where you move between several cities, or would you like another open world game?
If I could choose move different between different cities, I think it could give a very nice like a helicopter view of the country the setting is in. Like, for example, if you choose India, I wouldn't want only one city, because I don't know India. I don't know anything historically important from India, except the the time that the British were there. And yeah, the same would go with China or with Macau, or the region of China where the Portuguese were, which is actually I think we actually see that with Xiao Jun in Assassin's Creed Chronicles. But I'm getting I'm digressing. um, yeah, I prefer to see more than one city than just one, because um, for the story, it would enrich the game, in my opinion.
And would you want that city to be built for parkour? Close streets, ropes, trees, other structures that you can freely move on, or for you is parkour a less important feature of these games?
There should be at least one or two cities that parkour should be possible.
Yeah, yeah. What about you,
Yeah.
Declan? Where do you stand?
Um, I stand on the topic that parkour isn't my favourite, so I'm happy with anything. But I know Syndicate solved the parkour open world issue ages ago that the developers haven't clicked onto yet. So I'm just waiting for them to come to me and ask me what my opinion is and how they can fix parkour. But open world with a heavy emphasis on parkour environmentally and city is the best bet with and probably a bit controversial, but with tool for parkour. So if people can't get across large gaps, a grappling hook tool that would work. I wouldn't see how that'd be historically inaccurate for an assassin to use, but if Syndicate can have destructible environments for shooting down crates on top of people's heads, why can't we shoot a vine that's hanging a tree up? Why can't we shoot a branch down to open a path?
Aveline could do that with her whip. Do you remember? She could use her whip to hook onto certain
Yeah,
beams and traverse across open spaces. Did you have that option in Black Flag with the rope dart that you get
No,
right at
you
the end
can't.
of
You
Black?
can't.
Can you use it as you can't use it as a movement
No, no,
device?
no,
Okay,
no. That's exclusively to murder people.
gotcha. Okay. I'm just trying to think if anyone else had that kind of movement that Aveline did with the whip. I don't remember anything,
I
but my
think
memory's not
Xiao
always great.
Jun can in Chronicles, or am I wrong?
In
I
Chronicles, who? I'm sorry.
Xiao Jun in Chronicles China, I think she can have a basic. I think she does have a
Oh, it's
swing, but I can't
yeah,
remember.
it's possible. I only played it once, so my memory, it's, yeah, a bit fuzzy. But yeah, it's very possible that she did have something like that, or maybe also a grappling hook, but that she had to throw herself, maybe.
mm,
Like, not with a, because this is actually something I wanted to mention when you, I don't know, I think it was James that said, I don't know why they didn't invent this before. And my opinion is that the grappling hook, which was apparently invented by Alexander Graham Bell, um, I don't know if that's pronounced correctly.
I think it's
uh,
fine.
okay. Well, they were using this technology that includes it's compressed air, and I don't think compressed air was, it was that easy to get before the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So especially in that small size, but I mean, we've seen a goddamn wrist gun from Ezio during the Renaissance. So yeah, maybe it's a little bit possible, I suppose.
Well,
Sometimes, well, yeah, the assassins have always been a little bit ahead of time, haven't they? Or at
Exactly,
least, at least the
especially with Da Vinci.
yes. Was it? It was Altair got the plans for the gun, did he not, from the Apple, and he recorded it in his codex. Is that right? I forget now. I'm a bit hazy on the details, but that's the kind
um,
of the explanation for how Ezio gets his gun. I guess 100 years or
it
so.
was designed by Altair. Altair shoots Abbas with it, and he wrote it in the codex. Yeah,
Yes, of course, of course. Go on, Declan. You wanted to say something,
yeah.
mate?
so I just had to quickly run to Assassin's Creed Wiki because that place saves my life. So whoever runs it is a legend. I was wrong. Xiao Jun doesn't use a grappling hook, but are you guys ready for some juicy information that I didn't realise?
Absolutely.
In 1190, Rafiki, who was the bureau leader of Damascus, gave Altair a grappling hook to aid him in his quest for the chalice. It allowed assassins to traverse gaps and chasms too wide for him to free run over, and proved indispensable at various points in his mission. Now, that's 1190, so if canonically in 1190 Altair had a grappling hook, then it's possible that earlier uses of the grappling hook would have been sufficient, and In 1840, assassin Arbaz Mir from India, and I severely apologise if I butchered the name wrong, I'm not very good at reading, did also use a rope dart as a grappling hook during his request to cover the Ko Noir piece of Eden. So, grappling hooks are mechanically used for parkour. So, Ada, your opinion on this? Would you mind seeing that more?
Yeah, I was going to say that it makes a lot of sense because, well, crossbows. I mean, you can use a grappling hook with a crossbow. You can use a grappling hook with just a normal bow. It's just like you said, just an evolution depending on the technology at the time. So, for example, like you said in 1990, sorry, 1190, they used the probably with a crossbow or something, and then later on they just used that compressed air thing that comes from the gauntlet and allows probably even higher, um, higher distances. So, and also to pull up automatically the weight of the person, which is not probably not something that the first ones could do.
So,
It,
and sorry, James, do you want to go first?
no, I was just say very quickly say it's a good point. Just because Syndicate has the sort of the Industrial Revolution version with compressed air and I guess some kind of very powerful spring to pull the person up that rope up the Big Ben or other tall buildings in London. You're absolutely right, Declan. There's no reason why you couldn't have an assassin earlier in time equipped with um, a hook that they fire with a bow. Think of how Lara Croft fires her bow and arrow to bridge gaps and so on. Or as you say, a hand rope with a hook on the end that they can throw. So you could have parkour in a city or in a more of a countryside or forest area, but you could open the world out a bit, but you could still use that kind of rope system to let you bridge those gaps and create your own routes. And then close the world back in for the movement that you want. So you're right. It doesn't have to be a high technology option, does it? But there's definitely ways of giving the player interesting tools to traverse the world and tools that fit the historical time period. Let's put it like that.
So, my question, and I'd love to get Ada's opinion first, would then be, should Assassin's Creed stop trying to build the world around parkour, but instead giving us opportunities to create parkour? So, destructible environments. So maybe if there's a tree, like I said before, hanging on a vine, shoot at a weak spot like you do with crates, it falls down and it's another ledge for you to hang off. If it's a more modern day city, there's balconies with crates on it. You could shoot the crates to break them, and then you've got an extra parkour route. Very simplistic grappling hooks. You don't have to be big fancy. It could just be a rope and a fishing hook. Well, have to be stronger than a fishing hook, but what would your thoughts be then, instead of Assassin's Creed forcing worlds to be smaller, fishbowling, if they evolved it so you can make your own parkour with your own ways, with tools and destructible environments?
Well, I think that the only reason a lot of people would use what you said is if that was the only way, the only path to do parkour. Because it's like James mentioned before, Tomb Raider, so Lara Croft having to use grappling hook or having to use different tools to jump over chasms or whatever. And I think people would just take the path of the least resistance, probably. And that would be the one that is the easiest to do parkour on. So, unless, that if you want free movement, like just to roam the city, if what you want is to chase a target or eavesdrop a target or stalk a target or something like that, then maybe that could be a good idea. It could put a little bit more of a challenge on that, and it would force you to actually find your own way. It wouldn't be just served on a plate. It would be just you interacting with the world, which is something that yeah, it's not that common, I suppose, in the Assassin's Creed franchise. I mean, you do parkour, you do, yeah, you can kill NPCs, of course, but
We try not to do that, but we all do it.
but yeah, I think you know what I mean, no?
I do. So we've got the black box missions in like Unity and Siege of Paris, where you do have that linear A to B, but you are
And Syndicate.
open.
Just
And
want
Syndicate,
to put that in there.
Syndicate, yes. You had the linear A to B to do something. So maybe if there was a linear A to B parkour, but there was environmental ways of destruction, grappling hooks that could give you an open-ended view. So it's like a mix of black box missions, but just for parkour, if that makes sense.
That I actually kind of like that idea because it reminds me a little bit of the parkour climbing challenges in tombs just out in the open, you know? And I think that's actually a really good idea, Declan. I have to admit, it would
It's
be
very
nice
rare
if.
I have them.
Yeah, maybe you can send your curriculum or something. but um, but yeah, no, I admit I would like something like that. To be honest, maybe not everywhere. Sometimes in outside in nature, in the countryside, that could be nice. Just with trees or just with something else. Then in the cities, it's yeah, it could be interesting. What I wouldn't want is having to run away or something from someone or be in a hurry and sometimes I just can't be arsed to do that. So yes, but with limits.
Yeah, so if it's like, if you say, if you just kill someone and you run in, there is a very, how would I word it? So I'm going to use Unity because it's a city and it's like 1-to-1. You could really run up a broken down car onto a roof to escape. It's simple. But if you want to be a bit more fancy and run up the cart but jump sideways, you've got the opportunity with a grapple hook to go sideways, different ways. So you've got the very simplest, I've just killed 20 guards, I can't be asked too far from, I'm going to run up that roof and I'm gone. Or you could, I've got time, let's have a bit of fun, let's throw the grapple hook, let's create some crates. So it keeps the simplistic idea of you've killed guards, leg it, because half the time if you've killed guards, you do not want to be hanging around. But I do agree, I think with the games being open world, that strategy would work best for environmental because I'm going to keep saying it. I want to be like Predator from Alien vs Predator, hiding up a tree, maybe grapple hook to another tree, air assassinate. That's fun. I don't want to walk behind a group of 20 guards like, hi, just going to drop a smoke bomb and assassinate you. I want to pop up out of nowhere and scare them. It's a bit more entertaining that way. James, what would your thoughts be?
I've been enjoying listening to you two talk for the last few minutes and just yeah. What were my thoughts? You put me on the spot now. Let me think. So I tell you what I thought was interesting. What you said a few minutes ago about breakable environments or whatever, and I'm thinking about the set piece missions, like we've mentioned, Unity and Syndicate, where you've got a fairly limited number of targets, but you've got set pieces, you've got optional objectives, and you've got free choice how you approach the target. And it's those setups that for me encourage parkour, because you can climb the walls, go over the roofs, or you can go into the sewers, or you can sneak behind guards, or you can sort of smoke bomb your way in. But wouldn't it be even more interesting if you could break windows, or maybe go through a sewer and pick a lock to gain access to a kitchen, and then sort of sneak in as a waiter or a chef or something and take the target out. So, but again, that then connects to the core of the game, because the reason those black box missions, for me anyway, are so interesting and encourage you as the player to find new routes and explore new approaches is because you can replay them as many times as you like. And in the most recent trilogy, unless you're very good at keeping lots of save games, which I'm not, you can't replay the missions. So we did a Siege of Paris episode, didn't we, a few months ago? And we spoke about the return of the black box missions, and we kill, is it 2 bishops? And I can't remember all the characters' names. It doesn't really matter. Seeing that pop up again, the black box mission, and gathering the information to work your way into the target was fantastic. But you can't replay it once you've killed the target. Bishop Goslin, that was one of them. Anyway, doesn't matter. You can't replay the mission, so you can never go again unless you're managing your save games. Maybe there was a different approach where you could have parkoured across ropes or in through broken windows or into a hay bale. But I'll never know without replaying the entirety of Valhalla, which I'm not going to do, because you can't replay those segments. So it almost comes to the core of what do you want these games to be. If you want them to be to reward the players' creativity, if you want to reward the players' exploration of these set piece the one that always sticks in my mind is when we assassinate Marie Levesque in Paris. You've got the big house, it's crawling with guards. It's not a difficult mission, you've just got to be patient, but there are so many routes in, and a lot of the routes involve parkour if you want to. Once you're in the building, less so, although there are opportunities as well. But because you can replay it, you can explore. There's an open window, and the level changes. Different windows will be open at different times. Different doors are locked and not locked. So I think I guess what the conclusion I'm talking myself into is, if we could replay these memories or these sequences or quests, to use the word that we use for the newer games, you'd probably encourage players to find more useful or more interesting approaches. The one that also sticks in my head, I'm not sure if it really counts as parkour, is the bathhouse assassination in Alexandria. Now, to be fair, you just climb up to the roofs and you follow some fixed paths, but it's a nice little nod to a bit of very simple kind of movement through the rooftops or through the ceiling spaces. But if you could replay that and there was a couple of different entrances, wouldn't that be interesting? And wouldn't that encourage more creative play? That's the phrase I'm looking for. And I think we miss that now, because once the target is dead, we move on to the next one. Ada, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned the assassination bathhouse, and actually, I have to admit that I had the same sentiment when I was playing it. It felt, especially because you didn't have your outfit with you, you didn't have any other weapons with you. You were completely, literally in the nude.
I think Declan did an episode about the bath towel a few months ago, didn't you, Declan? My ex-bath towel.
Anyway, I remember I've played the game, I think maybe 3 times. And I think I've used at least a couple of different approaches. But yeah, I mean, by this, I mean, one time I climbed and went to the left, and then the other time I climbed and went to the right. I mean, that's the only option you have. You have to go through that teeny tiny window on the top of the, near the ceiling, and then descend on the man. But the thing about this part, it felt very nostalgic to me, because it felt a lot like the first Assassin's Creed, because you're very exposed. You really cannot be detected, because otherwise you're really fucked. And you are going to do your first assassination with a hidden blade, which actually causes him to lose his finger, as you know already.
Yes.
Spoilers. So
oh no, too late.
So yeah, it's it's teeny tiny parkour bit, but I think it was still interesting. I would have preferred more, like you said, like black box mission. Of course, that would have been amazing. Imagine having every member of the ancient ones being assassinated with a black box mission. That would be amazing, of course.
So cool. It'd be so cool.
But yeah, I think maybe we will have to wait for the next game for that. Hopefully, with also more parkour, and not the feeling. I'm going to maybe change a little bit the subject. I'm going to switch it to Valhalla, because they feel Eivor, at least. I've only played with Eivor, female Eivor, like some people call her, and she feels so heavy. So heavy.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've had that impression as well right from the start of when you first explore Stavanger in Norway. Yeah, she can't, bless her. I play with Eivor as well, because that's the character that it should be. She's a woman and it's supposed to be the canonical character anyway. she can't jump. Cassandra can leap so much further, and I don't get it because it restricts our freedom as players. Sorry, Ad, I interrupted you. Carry on.
Well, I was going to say, because this was a bit of an introduction to something that I already mentioned to you two before the recording, and that's the comparison to the in real life parkour a little bit. Um, with and this I have seen as well with maybe other games, but with Valhalla I see it a lot, which is probably why they made her movements so limited and heavy, because she's wearing a really heavy armor. I mean, all the fur and the leather and the armor that I don't know what's made of. I suppose steel or something that she's wearing. That's super heavy. So doing parkour with that is pretty much impossible. I mean, it's already difficult to do it with only leather or wearing just a normal, normal outfit. So to do it with that extra weight is pretty much impossible. So I sort of get, if you want to do a more grounded game, I get what they were doing. On the other hand, it's an Assassin's Creed game, so you expect parkour, and you also
Yes.
expect assassins, or at least hidden ones, or at least someone that says, "Oh yeah, I'll own you," and not say, "Oh yeah, I just want to do it for glory." And I'm digressing again, but that's something that pisses me off so much.
I think
Now, so this is something that, like you, I've had this feeling right from the start that I just couldn't understand why Eivor can't move through the cities like Cassandra can move through her cities. But what you said there makes a lot of sense. Maybe they wanted it to be more grounded. However, a few months ago, I was discussing with someone on Twitter. Now, I'd spotted this in the character stats menu of Valhalla, but I never really bothered looking at it because, to my understanding, the character stats don't make a huge amount of difference. So I've never bothered with builds, specific character builds, the way I did with Odyssey, where you could get very different combat styles and play styles if you invested the time in different gear, but it doesn't seem to work quite the same way. Or there's less return on investment, shall we say, with the character build system in Valhalla. So I've not really bothered. However, I'm getting to my point. There is a character weight metric in Valhalla in the character build, and you can as you remove armor, your weight goes down. You can equip runes that lower your weight. And apparently, and I never spotted this, apparently if you this is going to sound weird, but I don't mean it weird. If you take Eivor's clothes off, or if you equip her with very lightweight armor, or you equip her with the runes that save weight, it does affect her parkour ability. She can jump further or climb faster. I haven't tried it myself, but I'm sort of taking other people's words from it. And I'll tell you one very brief thing. I played Valhalla before Black Flag, so I'd never had to chase a flying paper before. So when I first saw these little marks on the map in Stavanger, and I'm running after these flying papers, could Eivor keep up? No, she could not. And you had to be so precise because I had her equipped with armor and she was very heavy and couldn't jump so far. So I'm personally more of the opinion, kind of like you were saying, Adha, it's a game. Let me have some fun. I don't need it to be that realistic because I wanna jump across rooftops and jump across streets, all the rest of it. Having to build for parkour seems a shame to me. Declan, go ahead.
This is where I'm gonna anger the community again. So yay, Declan. I play these games to have fun. Yes. I play them to enjoy them. Yes. I see parkour as only for. I don't mean this in a bad way, but only for trained assassins. With Arno has a right to do it because he's wearing the right clothes. Edward, when he becomes a later assassin, yes, give or take, he does, have the ability early because, like James, because of his time at sea. But when you get the more realistic, and it's the argument I've had with the game has for years, history versus gameplay, I really think you have to have a boundary where it's become too unrealistic. And I kind of feel giving every character in the game the ability to be great at parkour is an unrealistic boundary break. Eivor's weight limits just show, she's living up in the cold of Norway. She's not going to have assassin robes on that are going to make her do kickflips and everything. She needs that thick wool clothes that will weigh her down. If she goes swimming, they're going to absorb a lot of water. It's going to add to the weight. So building for parkour in England makes sense for Avor. That's logical for what Avor to do. And I kind of just feel that maybe I'm the odd one out, but parkour is great for the series and it's one of the best things for exploration. But making it now where it breaks the boundaries of logic, not to sound thing, is kind of unfair in my opinion. So making it so from the get-go Ava is as good as parkour is Arno, or well, actually let's go back to the other games because I know the parkour and the trilogy is more simpler. So as good at parkour as an assassin from the older games is just not logical for me. I kind of like the idea that if Ava was to be built as an assassin, the way the skill trees work, the way the gear system works, people would naturally gear to wearing lower armor. If people are wanting to play Valhalla as a fighting build for they would use heavy armor that would increase the armor stats, which is logical. If people like me who like to do a lot of the sneaky stuff, we do wear a lot more armor that weighs a little bit less, because I knew that I did that subconsciously. I didn't realize I was doing it. I wear a lot of assassin robes, so my parkour speed is a bit faster. So I don't know, maybe the odd one out that I kind of like the realism for the parkour. I don't want parkour to become a system where it breaks all boundaries of logic or gameplay, and it's just, well, history, and it's just a gameplay where they could do whatever they want because it's there, if that makes sense, James.
When you say it like that, it does make a lot of sense, and I sort of can't argue with you, but I'm going to argue with you, and I'm going to pull out the ultimate reverse card. Eivor is no ordinary person. She's a sage. She has special abilities, and I think that those abilities should include the ability to leap tall buildings with a single bound.
Technically, she's not a sage,
isn't she?
Well,
or what is she?
Well, technically, and I don't know if Adha can correct me because I may have my law wrong. She is a sage, but she's not awoken. So, how? Oh, there was a sage in Unity, but forgot his name.
Francois Thomas Germain.
Yeah, he's awake. He knows he's a sage.
Yes.
Sigurd, he knows he's now a sage. From All Awakened. To Eivor, Odin's just a voice in her mind. Just someone that she can. Don't like you. You're getting on my head nerves. She repels Odin out of her mind because that's just her subconscious to her. She doesn't know she's a sage. She knows nothing. She just believes she's Eivor, and so even though she is biologically a sage, she doesn't know she is. But I don't know if I'm right in saying that. Adha?
I was talking literally yesterday about this with 6keys in the server, and she is a sage. So what differences a sage from a normal person is the amount of ISO DNA in their own DNA. So usually a normal person, it goes from 0.0002 to 0.0005 or something like that, and a sage has way more than that. Doesn't matter if the person doesn't really accept that they have that DNA within them, because the fact that she hears and I'm digressing a lot, I know this is completely off topic, but the fact that she hears the memories of Odin or Havi is because we're talking about genetic memories. So she's tapping into her own genetic memories. Well, not her own, but an ancestor of hers. But instead of being an ancestor, is someone that has been resurrected inside of her. So that's a sage. That's why that's conflicting inside of her. So that is the same with Basim. It's the same with Sigurd. It's the same with Svala. So yeah, it's even the same with Harald. The Harald. No, Halfdan, the son of Ragnar. The one that is in Jorvik. It was Halfdan, no?
I can't remember his name, but I know who you mean. Yes.
Well, yeah. So Yeah, she is a sage.
To be honest, I'm getting so confused because Assassin's Creed brought sages in with Black Flag, and I dropped my jaws. Like, this is so cool. I want no more. The Unity had them again. It's like, oh, cool, this is great. And then they disappeared without any trace. And then the back in Valhalla, and I'm like, what actually does a sage do? You know, I know the human, and I've always interpreted it as that they are sages, biologically, they're sages, but if they don't awaken or release all the memories, then they just live their life as the normal person. Because I think there was something in law that people could live all their lives not knowing the sages, which is what Avon was doing. But to be honest, I don't know. Sages is the story point that they should have brought up a lot more instead of just dropping it now. I'm like, hey, bring sages back and give some great lore, and then we'll probably drop the idea and move on to something else in the future, if that makes sense.
Going back just for a second to what you said before about that parkour, that not everyone has to be an expert in parkour, that maybe live that for the assassins. I totally agree, actually. I discussed not long ago, not long ago. When I say this, I probably mean like 2 years ago, with someone, I think it was on the official Discord. And they were saying that they thought that the fact that there were basically all the protagonists, or a lot of the protagonists in Assassin's Creed, were legendary assassins, at least up to the point of Arno. Arno is not a legendary assassin. He has someone right above him. He never, I mean, he achieves the master assassin rank, but as far as we know, he's never a mentor. He doesn't really change the order. So it's just that's just him. And I think that's a good thing. It's the same with Jacob in Evie Fry. It's the yeah, and it's the same with Cassandra, really, because Cassandra never. I mean, we don't really hear about her until we actually play as her, until we discover the Spear of Leonidas. At least we knew something about Amunet before Origins came. It was released. But I think my whole point that I'm trying to make is that if there's such variability with assassins, it's not weird that there's also variability with the skill, the level of skill with parkour and assassinations and fight. Because if, for example, you see Cassandra is and also Eivor, they are not the stealthiest persons. It's also, of course, the
That's true. Yep.
the gameplay, what we are allowed to do as them. But yeah, I don't know if it's because they're transforming everything into the RPG. I don't know if it's because of the setting. I don't know if they're trying to keep it more accurate historically, or if they want to make it a little bit more proportionate and and grounded. That everyone is different, so everyone is going to have different skills or level of skills. But I was kind of hoping that some things would be a little bit more. I was looking forward a lot, especially to the. I was looking forward to playing this game, and I liked it. I liked it, but I liked Odyssey more, which is weird because it's the one that feels more out of place. Well, it feels out of place the most. But yeah, digressing again.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's just okay to digress. I would also say the same. I enjoyed Odyssey as a game more than Valhalla. Probably a big topic for another time, but in terms of parkour, how would you divide it up? There are probably more parkour opportunities in Valhalla. Still not many, I would say. But then they made the parkour harder to access because they've added this character weight mechanic which doesn't exist in Odyssey. But then there are parkour opportunities. People say there's no parkour in Odyssey. Yes, I know certain cities could have been done better. We talked about that right at the start of the show, but there are some really nice routes you can build around the forts, around some of the smaller towns. Maybe it's just lack of time. I haven't really looked at Valhalla Parkour. It's interesting, isn't it? You can't really separate the parkour from the world you're moving through. What I was thinking about when you were talking at it is, maybe it was when Declan was talking. You make a point, lots of good points about keeping the game grounded or keeping the character grounded. And yeah, it makes sense that not all characters are going to be immensely strong or have great core strength for doing parkour. And I was thinking to myself, if we exclude the modern or the Layla Hassan trilogy and we look at the older games, Ezio had to learn certain moves, didn't he? Like he had to learn the climb leap from the lady whose name I forget in
Rosa.
Venice. Rosa. Okay. So he had to learn the climb leap from her. I don't know if he had to learn. I don't remember the game well enough. I know it's really bad. Is he the only player who's had to learn movements? The only player? Is he the only protagonist who's had to learn the movements through the game? Have all of our other protagonists just arrived in the game with a full set of movement? I think they have, but my memory's not good enough.
I don't really recall because the third, Assassin's Creed 3, I have not played that often. I know that in Assassin's Creed 1, you are very limited in a lot of things. Like, for example, you cannot do the air assassination because it's not really invented, until after, so it's not shown until Assassin's Creed 2. But I don't think you actually have to learn. They just tell you, this is available, and then you can just train, But it's only for weapons, not for parkour.
Yeah. I think. Well, I'm trying to think through. Hatham, when he arrives, and he's an adult. I guess he's middle aged. He's been able to do parkour a long time. Connor can already parkour through the trees when we meet him as a child, I think. So he's already got the skill. Shay has been trained. Yeah, it's interesting. Declan, would you like to say any other points?
Well, the point I wanted to bring up, and it's join what you're saying, is why don't they just do the simplest thing possible? Get rid of skill trees, but don't. And it sounds very controversial.
Oh, go on. Get rid of skill trees, but don't. Okay.
So why don't you just label skill trees learn trees? Really stupid to say, hey, look, it's learn tree. And just how Valhalla works. Keep Valhalla's level up system because it's one of the best in the game. In the series, it's smooth, it's simple, it's not overcomplicated. But as you put points into this passive learn tree, you learn tricks. So as Valhalla, learn different ways to get adrenaline slots and blah blah blah. But you learn ways to reduce your weight, so you become faster. You learn.
Okay.
You learn skills. You learn. So let's look at Ava to start with. She's very slow, very cumbersome. So you can learn balance. So Ava learns how to correct a landing. There's probably 3 traits to it, so she gets better and better at landing. So first step she stumbles, second step she stumbles less, the third step she doesn't stumble at all. So as you jump more, you stumble less, making you more sturdier. Speed. So Ava gradually gets faster and faster, so it's like an endurance. So she's able to get up buildings quicker and quicker and quicker, and so on. And I think that idea, you can take any protagonist with 0 skill, and as you play the game, you learn the assassin. You learn it, and it's just passive. So you can keep simple routes in the game through environmental. You can create environmental open world style ones through destructive elements, grapple hooks. But ultimately, you can make a character learn that they can endure more. So no matter what armor they're wearing, if you've put all your points into the passives to make the parkour better, you can wear the heaviest armor, but they're running as smooth as an assassin from the older games. So I think that's a really nice way of giving people the parkour. And the people who could just farm areas early on and just have fun killing enemies and getting all the XP really simple as Valhalla is, there's been no issues with Valhalla's XP in my opinion. Then they could just make the character like Eivor learn to stumble less, to run faster. Gear starts weigh nothing. So like the fourth trait is all gear weighs 0. So it gradually reduces it by 10, 25, 50, 100%, if that makes sense.
When you first started saying the idea, my immediate reaction was, that's a horrible idea. But the more you're explaining it, I think that's quite interesting, because there are absolutely players, who just want to play these as melee combat games. That's absolutely fine. There are players who want to spec for ranged combat. Absolutely fine. If you're going to continue to keep skill trees, or the very complex kind of constellation of skill points like Valhalla has, why not go all in for the character movement? If you decide you want to build your Eivor for free running, that would be fantastic, especially if you could really unlock some great jumps or climb leaps, or you need to unlock a skill to balance on a rope. Of course, you've got to connect it to having a world where you can exploit those things. There's no point, let's say, having a level 3 balancing skill if there's nothing in the world where you can use that skill. So you've got to have the skill tree linked to the real world. But that could be really interesting. Like, I don't know, imagine you've got approach to a camp where you need certain parkour skills. So you take the time to unlock those skills, and then you've unlocked unique approaches. It's almost like back to that black box thing, where your skill tree or your character build really makes a difference to how you approach the world. I don't know. I wasn't convinced at the start, Declan, but I'm more convinced now. Definitely. Adha, please go ahead.
Yeah, that's a very interesting suggestion, and I call and actually raise because, in my opinion, instead of having the skill tree, I think it should be just it's not it should not be just oh, I'm going to earn these experience points and I'm going to use them in the skill tree, and then I'm going to have more balance, or I'm going to have more of this. No, 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 no. It would be better if you actually practice those skills, so you actually gain the levels by using them. This happens in other games. I think maybe if you remember GTA, you gain strength by going to the gym. You gain I think it was stamina from swimming or something like that. And I think that would be a really good point. Like, we have this stamina, this new yeah bar that you have to use in Valhalla.
Yes.
So maybe a good way of increasing it is by actually training, running around or doing different types of exercise that help you increase it. I mean, it makes sense. Exercise physiology is actually like that. You gain endurance by actually training.
I think you're onto something there, Declan. You've got universal support for your idea. Maybe a couple of different ways of implementing it, but yeah.
This also reminds me, Assassin's Creed 1, when you get demoted, you have to learn like the counter and everything with the mentor in the fight pit, if you remember correctly. So as you learn different techniques of like heavy and low tech, you learn it in the ring, because he's like, oh, teach my students. But imagine that. Imagine like, is it Hytham or Hytham in Valhalla? I want to call him Hytham.
Hytham in Valhalla.
Hytham. Imagine Hytham just pulling Eivor aside, like, look, I'm going to teach you how to do this, and he like takes it to a group of trees, and the first time you fall off and he laughs at you, so you do it like 3 or 4 times, and she gets better and better, and you can repeat like 4 times, and 4 is just an easy number for me to remember. So you keep repeating that quest 4 times, and every time you get different dialogue, and it can create that opportunity where you can continue doing non-assassin protagonists, but giving them an assassin mentor. So even if they at the end reject the creed, they've been trained to be an assassin. They may later in life join the creed or not, but if the next game went back to Assassins vs Templars, which is what I would like to see, but it was somebody that wasn't an assassin, like Edward style, seeing them get trained to be an assassin and learn parkour, learn assassination would be icing on the cake, in my opinion. Chef's kiss.
You know who we saw being trained that you actually had to do different tasks and then rejected the the assassins? That was Shay Cormac. You have to do different tasks with Hope, with Adewale, with the other man, I don't remember his name.
Kasigo Esse.
Yes. Oh, god damn it. And then I think there was someone else, the Liam, maybe. You have to do something with him, maybe.
Yes.
And you have to do all that just to actually, train as an assassin, because he was still just an assassin. He wasn't a novice, but yeah, he was not really that high in rank at the time. So yeah, something like that. If they include again the whole thing about hidden ones or assassins, I would like to see it. Yeah, that would be very nice. Plus the parkour, so we don't lose our.
So there's ways around it. Like at the end of the day, parkour doesn't have to be some illogical thing that you like super duper. You can actually create an in-game experience where you can give fans that parkour they want, but in their own way. Environmentally, make it destructible, make it open-ended, city-based, make it open-ended, but have simple routes, give the freedom, and get your character to learn more. But I think that's all we have time for, unless James has anything else to say.
I got one final question for you both.
Yes.
Pick one game in the series. Which one did you use parkour the most?
Adha?
Assassin's Creed 2,
Okay.
because I played it the most.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's the reason.
Yeah. And you, Declan?
Go controversially, Valhalla.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah, like I used parkour I'm gonna say 90% of the time in all the old games, because I loved going on the rooftops to assassinate the archers. It was just fun. But after 3, when there was no agency to parkour anymore, there was just no grounded need. Like, not to be rude, you get more action on Unity's street floor than you do on the rooftops, and similar with Syndicate. But I don't know, I just really love Eivor hiding up some trees, climbing on churches, climbing over walls to like sit there like a cat and then pounce on a guard passing by. Just really stupid things like that. So yeah, I think Valhalla's my main game for parkour. And stealth.
Interesting. Well, good. That was it. That was my very last question.
So I want to thank Adha for joining. It's been great to talk
thanks
to you.
a lot for accepting my inclusion.
And thank you for coming for such short notice.
No problem.
So this has been a very interesting topic, and I know it's ironic, the guy who doesn't enjoy parkour as much because he doesn't feel that assassins should be vigilante Batmans, but it's great to see that parkour is a fundamental part of the game. It's really implemented well. I praise it where it needs praise, even though I don't use it as much. So the future is bright for the series, as long as they learn to adapt parkour and do what they did with Unity. Unity evolved parkour. Now they should do the same. You've evolved parkour and give us ways to explore parkour and make it better in an RPG setting. If anyone else has any thoughts on parkour, you can reach out to us on Twitter at AC Let's Talk or Twitter at AC James Tilliquid. Still love the Twitter name, one of my favourites. You can also email us your ideas, or if you want to be on the show, you can DM us. So my email is Assassin's Creed Let's Talk at gmail.com. Really long email, I need to fix that. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week.
See you all soon.
Thank you.